Welcome to This Week in Hearing. I'm Shari Eberts, co-author of Hear and Beyond, Live Skillfully with Hearing Loss. And this week, our guest is Dr. Tina Stankovic, the Department Chair of Otolaryngology, Head and Neck Surgery at Stanford University. In this role, she also runs Stanford's Initiative to Cure Hearing Loss, or SICHL for short. Tina has a very impressive career as an academic and also in research. She was trained as an ear and skull-based surgeon at Harvard and as an auditory neuroscientist at MIT. And she was also recently elected to the prestigious National Academy of Medicine for her scientific contributions into the field of hearing loss. So thank you, Tina, for being here to talk about the incredible work of SICHL and all that you're doing to move the field of hearing research forward. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate having the opportunity to chat with you.
Absolutely. So before we dive into the discussion, I would love to learn a little bit more about you and how you got interested in studying hearing and how that sort of led your career path to your current role at Stanford.
Thank you for that opportunity. Like so many of us, I've been inspired by remarkable people I've had the privilege of learning from over the years. My love of music drove me into the field of hearing. I played the piano semi-seriously before high school, and since then have remained a dedicated listener. And of course, to appreciate music, we must be able to hear it. As an undergraduate at MIT, double majoring in physics and molecular biology, I looked for a project that would allow me to combine these two disparate majors with my passion for music and my budding interest in medicine. So I chose to work in a cochlear implant lab at Massachusetts Eye and was fascinated realizing that some people can do remarkably well in terms of their ability to understand speech and others don't. So that led me to pursue my PhD studies in how the brain controls the function of the ear. And then during medical studies, which I pursued at Harvard in parallel with my PhD, I maintained that interest in hearing and actually studied for my thesis fluid and ion balance in the inner ear. And I was inspired by the kidney. And you could say, well, how similar are these two organs because they are so different in terms of scale. However, they do share many similarities because they both regulate fluids and ions very tightly. And they develop around the same time during embryonic development. And they are similarly susceptible to certain medications that can be toxic to both organs. So then it was natural for me to pursue a residency in otolaryngology, head and neck surgery, during which I did a formal postdoctoral fellowship studying how supporting cells in the inner ear promote survival of both the hearing nerve and the sensory cells in that organ. And during my clinical fellowship in neurotology and skull-base surgery, I became really fascinated by vestibular schwannomas, which are these intracranial tumors that typically cause hearing loss, and was really moved by the suffering these caused because currently there are no drugs that can eliminate these tumors. So after completing my long training, I joined faculty at Harvard as a surgeon scientist, focusing on ear and skull-based surgery and opening my lab focused on hearing restoration. And a dozen years later, I came to Stanford, which is now my new home. And I'm inspired by the vibrant culture we have here and our core values of kindness, creativity, innovation, and collaboration.
I love that. You are a well-educated woman. That's very impressive. Thank you for sharing
Thank
those
you.
details with us. I appreciate that. So research into a cure for hearing loss, I feel like that's been ongoing for many years, but sometimes it feels like progress can be a little bit slower maybe than compared to other fields. Do you agree with that? And why is hearing loss such a tough nut to crack?
You are correct. Of course, research progress is never fast enough.
Mm.
1.5 billion people have hearing loss. 500 million of them are disabled by it. And the cost of unaddressed hearing loss is the staggering nearly $1 trillion annually. And as you say, the hearing loss has been a difficult nut to crack, both literally and figuratively. Literally, this is a tiny and fragile organ embedded in the hardest bone in the body, deep within the skull. So how tiny is it? If you look at a penny, you'll notice that Lincoln is on a penny, and the human organ of hearing called the cochlea in cross-section is the size of Lincoln's upper face on a penny. And the
Wow.
total fluid volume within it is just 3 raindrops.
Mm.
But because of these challenges, we have been at the forefront of technology development and adoption. In that respect, we are really truly standing on the shoulders of the giants. For example, it was two ear surgeons who were the first to introduce a microscope into the operating room.
Mm.
This propelled all of surgery, from neurosurgery to microvascular reconstruction. Moreover, hearing researchers developed the cochlear implant, which is the most successful neural prosthesis, with more people wearing this device than all other neural prostheses combined. And the modern multi-channel cochlear implant was enabled by the work of a physicist and a Nobel laureate, von Bekeschi, who described the place frequency map in the cochlea. And what I mean by that is that it's a coiled organ. So now if you uncoil it, then every place along the length of the cochlea corresponds to a different frequency, which means that it's a tuned system, just like the strings on guitar.
Mm.
So Stanford played a seminal role here with an ear surgeon, Blair Simmons, collaborating with an electrical engineer, Bob White, to contribute to the first multi-channel cochlear implant. And they chose a winning strategy, which is a digital signal processing. Today, we are addressing the new frontiers, and they include cellular imaging of the inner ear, regenerative therapies that are based on stem cells and small molecules and gene therapies, as well as alternative modes of stimulating the auditory system, including magnetic and optical stimulation. And we are focused in developing medical therapies for hearing loss because currently there are no drugs that are FDA approved for hearing loss, despite the enormity of the problem.
Oh, thank you for that. So it is a tough nut to crack, but it's great to see that there are so many avenues that are being explored currently. One of my favorite things about SICHL is the collaborative research approach that you guys use. And maybe you can talk a little bit about if this is different from the way scientific research is typically done, and then what impact that philosophy is having on the work that you all are doing.
So, like many human activities, research is an elaborate dance. It involves students, postdoctoral fellows, junior colleagues, and senior faculty. And each of these groups is a constituency with slightly different needs and expectations. So the role of an institution is to help research groups function as orchestras of varying sizes, from a chamber group to a big band. And I really love how it's done at the Stanford Initiative to Cure Hearing Loss. We have a constantly varying stream of people with diverse backgrounds and interests, and they are held together by a common belief that together we can make a difference in the lives of the current and future patients.
Wonderful. And I understand that the researchers work on projects together many times. Do you think that contributes to the success of the projects, or, why is that such an important part of the philosophy?
Oh, absolutely. We strongly believe in synergy, which means that two people working together is more than addition. So it's more than adding parts. And of course, when you add even more people, then we can really solve challenging problems that have remained unsolved for so many years and decades, and literally centuries. And because these are challenging problems, they require a multidisciplinary approach to solve them. And we have experts in a variety of different fields that literally range from math and physics and basic biology to structural biology and engineering and genetics and molecular biology, regenerative biology, and clinicians. And at Stanford, we have all three components of research. Basic research, which, if you think of a tree, these would be the roots of the tree that are feeding the trunk, and that's translational research that then leads to branches, which is clinical research, and these branches then bear fruits. Uh, and there are multiple feedback loops at every level where clinical insights may inform what is being done at the bench. And in return, basic science discoveries can lead to major breakthroughs in how we treat patients with hearing loss. So it is a tree that we think of. And as you know, the redwood tree is in the Stanford University logo, with multiple feedback loops to allow us to collaborate in the most productive and most fun way.
I love that. All right, so let's get to the fun stuff then. Maybe you can give our listeners some hints or some exciting advancements that you all are working on in hearing science, and maybe a couple of the most promising projects.
Absolutely. So let me first start with the imaging probe, because the human inner ear is so tiny, we cannot get clear images of it on MRI and CT scans. Therefore, we cannot tell any person exactly what is wrong in their inner ear. We are changing that by developing a tiny microendoscope whose diameter is equivalent to a bundle of just 10 human hairs, and it can provide 100-fold better resolution than what's available today. So after more than 10 years of work, we are eager to move into clinical testing of this device, and the impact could be revolutionary because it would enable us to establish precise diagnoses for various causes of hearing loss and thereby guide personalized, very tailored therapies. A second example is that our investigators have developed a pipeline for access to the human inner ear tissue that's still living. And that is obtained from organ donors as well as from patients undergoing ear surgery. And this is remarkable because currently the primary source of information regarding the cellular origins of human hearing loss comes from studying autopsy specimens. And these specimens are obtained when individuals who pass away from completely unrelated causes generously donate their ears for research purposes. Now, when organs are harvested for transplantation, our teams have the opportunity to collect human inner ear tissue, allowing us to study at both the cellular and the molecular level. And this has major implications for future development of regenerative therapies. And I'll just give you two examples within this category. One is that our investigators have defined the first molecular atlas of the normal and diseased sensory organs within the human inner ear. And this atlas now serves as a roadmap to accelerate the development of regenerative and restorative therapies for human hearing loss. And also studying this living human inner ear tissue has allowed our investigators to observe the evidence of regenerative responses within the diseased human inner ear, although the process is incomplete. So this is really significant because previously we thought that only lower species, such as birds and reptiles, were capable of spontaneous regeneration. So the next step is to determine how to sustain this regenerative process in humans and bring it to a full-blown effect. And of course, our strategy will be informed by what our investigators and others across the world have learned from studying birds and reptiles. And then I'll give you a third example of our researchers making antibiotics non-toxic. So it turns out that many widely used medications, such as certain antibiotics, have the potential to cause permanent hearing loss. And our researchers are developing innovative methods to enhance safety of these antibiotics by altering their chemical structure. So these are just a few examples. There are many more, and I could talk about them for hours and days.
I'm sure you could. That is very exciting. Thank you for sharing those snippets with us. And people, I'm sure, can learn more about the projects on your website as well.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I have noticed, and I'm sure you have as well, that it can be hard to get mainstream news coverage about hearing loss, but SICHL's really been in the news a lot lately, and we have a legendary musician, Paul Simon, to thank for that. So can you talk a little bit about how Paul got interested in SICHL's work and what impact his support is having on that work?
Absolutely. Paul has been very public about having come to Stanford as a patient, and that's how he learned about our research. His impact has been tremendous. He performed benefit concerts for us here in California and in New York. He spoke about the Stanford Initiative to Cure Hearing Loss when he appeared on Stephen Colbert's show. And he brought his friends from CBS News to visit our labs and to film the segments that were aired in November. Through his advocacy and ambassadorship, our network of friends and donors has expanded greatly. So last year was a whirlwind of publicity and new opportunities for the Stanford Initiative to Cure Hearing Loss because of Paul. And his impact still continues. Most importantly, I think we have drawn attention of many people to hearing loss, which is an invisible and stigmatizing disability.
Well, I love seeing him and others talk so openly about their hearing loss. Part of it is just the expression of how it's challenging for them. And so it helps people better understand that there are a lot of challenges that people with hearing loss face. Even if it is invisible, it's always there in the background. And I love his positive attitude about it as well, right? That he's still out there finding a way to perform his music and to use his celebrity and his reputation to help move the field forward. So it's really wonderful to see that incredible partnership you have with him.
Yes, we really feel lucky and blessed to have him on board.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this podcast is often watched by consumers in addition to hearing care professionals. And so I was wondering if you had any advice for consumers who might be worried about their hearing, and what can they expect down the road from SICHL's work?
At this point, hearing protection is key. This implies using ear protection if you are attending loud music events or loud sporting events or using power tools. And if you develop tinnitus after a loud event, and even if it goes away, uh, the damage that has occurred has already happened and may manifest itself years and decades later. So this really highlights the importance of protecting our hearing. And there are other important ways to protect it, such as eating a healthy diet or having a healthy lifestyle that includes regular exercise, avoiding medications that can be damaging to the inner ear, such as certain antibiotics, certain blood pressure lowering medications, certain chemotherapeutic agents. It's also important to control the underlying health issues that are strongly linked to the increased risk of hearing loss, such as high blood pressure or diabetes. And avoiding smoking is really important. And we have learned about the importance of these preventative measures from large-scale epidemiologic studies that have involved hundreds of thousands of people followed over years and decades.
Oh, that is very good advice. Thank you for sharing that. I know that I always try and wear, big headphones whenever I go to a concert, but are earplugs enough? Or, how can we be sure that we're doing the right type of protection?
Earplugs can be enough depending on the intensity of sound and how much attenuation they provide. So we really have to be quantitative about it. And you can very easily get a feel for how loud your environment is by using an app on your phone. It's free. It's called DB app for decibel. And you should check how much attenuation the uh, earplugs that you get in any pharmacy over the counter provide. So how much attenuation do they provide? Is it 15 or 20 or 30 decibel? And I'll just give you a rough rule of thumb to use when considering how much attenuation you need. So it's generally agreed that sounds of 80 decibel for 8 hours are safe. But then for every 3 decibel increase in sound intensity, you have to halve the safe exposure. So that means 83 decibel is okay for 4 hours, 86 decibel for 2 hours, 89 decibel for 1 hour, 92 decibels for half an hour, and so on. And to give you a flavor for what that means in real life, many music concerts are well above 100 decibel. And in fact, it's not uncommon that they are as loud as 110 decibel. And some sporting events are ridiculously loud. And in fact, the US is in the Guinness Book of World Records for having achieved the highest noise levels at a football stadium.
That's not
And
a
this
good
was
thing.
which was in Kansas, and it was more than 140 decibel. This was just from the crowd cheering on. And that's louder than a jet engine. So most surely everyone there who was not wearing hearing protection ended up with some permanent hearing loss, which is a scary thought. So the bottom line is we have to be proactive. We need to educate everyone from little kids in preschool to mature adults how delicate this organ is and how important it is to protect it, because today we don't yet have curative therapies.
Well, thank you for that important warning. I agree. That's really good information. So my family and I have been supporters of SICHL's research for many years. And if others are interested in doing that, what's the best way for them to learn more about the research and how they can be helpful?
And we'd be delighted to connect with your audience members who are interested in supporting our work. Philanthropy makes a huge impact on accelerating our advances. I encourage people to go to our website at sichl.stanford.edu. So that's SICHL.stanford.edu for details about research and for information about how to make a gift. We always try to accommodate our potential partners using different modalities from Zoom to in-person visits. And as you know, we are blessed with gorgeous weather and a magnificent campus here. So I strongly encourage people to come visit us in person.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Tina, for being on the podcast today and sharing these exciting updates. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you so much, Sherry.
Thank you.